Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day to all of you pipe pals and gals. Holy smoke and pipe padre here again. It's been about, about 7 weeks now. And okay, got my pipe here. Housekeeping. This is just a little church warden I got back in seminary days, 30 some odd years ago. And anyway, she's a good little girl. Yeah. Anyway. But I'm not smoking. I'll explain that in a moment. But I am drinking some delicious tea, and I'm listening courtesy to Tune In on my Sonos sound system. Some beautiful music from KXPR Sacramento. So hope I don't get a copyright strike. So how you all doing? How have you been? Hope you've been well. Got a little bit of sore throat, a few little minor infirmities due to age, I guess, and diet, possibly. But we'll talk about that in another video some other time. But anyway, yeah, I'm not actually smoking. I haven't smoked a pipe in about 7 weeks now, and because it's Lent. Now, we'll talk a little bit about that probably in just a moment. But anyway, so I just wanted to get on here, and I'm using my screen capture app, my ScreenFlow 7, for those of you who want to know or who are in the know. It's a pretty good screen capture program for the Mac, and I believe they also are for Windows 10. I think that was a Rachmaninoff Sonata for Piano Concerto.
The finale to Rachmaninoff's wonderful G minor cello sonata, and as you might figure, pianist Rachmaninoff gave the piano a huge leading voice.
Grace, I just love that piece. I just love that piece. Always been a favorite of mine. Very, very emotive. Okay, so I am using ScreenFlow today because I want to talk about some things. Now, let me get back to my little pipe thingy here. I know I've had a few people through the years, and that's something interesting too. I've been looking at some of the YouTubes of people in the YouTube pipe community, and other YouTubers that I follow, and it's kind of fascinating now to see in the queue every now and then you'll see some videos of people you know, or at least you know, online. And then you look down, and now they're putting the year, or the years that this video was made. And it's a little bit sobering because although they look like they could have been made today, it'll say like 5 years, 6 years, made 7 years ago. And it makes you stop and think, wait a minute, wow, this person's has had a YouTube presence for quite a number of years. And I think I've been on the YouTube now, on this channel, for a little over 5 years, maybe going on 6 or 7. I can't remember now. But again, sometimes people will comment on my videos, and it's interesting because sometimes I'll get somebody commenting on a video that I made like 5 years ago. I mean, a recent comment, and I'm kind of going, wait a minute, what are they talking about? And then I realize, oh, they're commenting on a video that I made, you know, back when I was at Good Shepherd, or, you know, all these other different videos. So, but a couple of times people will, you know, because I am a padre, a priest, you know, and a Christian, they will kind of say that I'm a bad example because I'm, you know, I'm advocating smoking, and they say, you know, you're advocating, you know, your addiction, you know, and addictions are bad, and I agree. First of all, let me just say I agree that addictions are bad. Addictions are basically a prison that you make yourself, and you put yourself in that prison and you throw away the key. That's not a fun place to be. And I know other YouTubers have talked about the idea of addiction from different standpoints. Maybe some people are coming off of cigarettes and they go to a pipe. Some people find that helpful, and because, you know, most of us pipe smokers don't inhale the tobacco. And I'm not saying it's risk without risk and it's risk free. No, But again, this is a hobby that most of us, I think, would agree are adults here. We're not trying to, um, you know, recruit underage smokers. That's not it at all. I mean, that's totally irresponsible. I've never done that, and I would never do that. Um, if a young person came to me and asked me to buy them tobacco or a pipe or something, I wouldn't do it. I'd say, um, that's an adult decision, and you need to have some years in life, and again, just legally, it's against the law. So again, but again, getting back to this whole idea of addiction, um, I have to be honest with you. I said I quote unquote gave up my pipe for Lent, and maybe some people might think, wow, that's great. Wow, I wish I could do that. I can't take any credit for not smoking a pipe during Lent because I'm not a daily pipe smoker. I mean, there have been times where I've maybe, when I was making a lot of YouTube videos and I was making one video maybe every other day, yeah, I probably have a pipe in my hand and, enjoying a pipe. But it's never been an addiction for me. And some people might say, oh, you're a liar, and all people that smoke are addicted. Well, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not. I'm not addicted to pipe smoking and never have been. Probably never will be because it's not, for some reason, it's just not one of those things that I get addicted to. I do get addicted to carbohydrates and sugar. Those are my addictions, and some of you know what I'm talking about. And that's an ongoing battle for me. I go through periods where I go really, really well, and then I just plunge myself back into a carbohydrate, sugar, frenzy, and it's not good. I pay a big price for that. But that's another thing. That's another story for another time. But anyway, so it's not a big deal for me to literally put this down and not pick it up for months. And there was even a time, to be really, really blunt about it, I probably didn't start pipe smoking again until recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I was invited by My Monk Vlog, Tom at My Monk's Vlog, to consider looking at the YouTube pipe community videos and maybe joining. That was it. I was hooked. So anyway, Tom, if you're still out there, God bless you. But anyway, so I'm here today to talk about some issues that have been percolating for me for the last few weeks. My last video was a little more, I was doing the drive back from the Highlands, as I like to say. Oh, that tea is good. And I was, kind of like you, processing this whole thing that happened in Florida at the Parkland school. And so I see now, today is March the 24th, I believe. I have to get my glasses on. I can't see some of the finer details on mine. Yeah, it is the 24th. So there's a big march and a protest with these young people. And on one hand, hey, they're exercising their First Amendment rights, and certainly support that. But let's see, we got some here. There's a reason why I'm doing ScreenFlow, so I can do something like this. Where are we at here? Let's go here. Let's go there. See? Okay, so here we go. I guess here we go. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the March for Life, or March for Our Lives. Interesting. Okay. So the thing that I wanted to say, and I don't know if anybody else feels this way. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'm kind of concerned, for lots of different reasons, that we're seeming to, again, well, but basically what I said, it was we're weaponizing the youth of America. And I want to explain that. When we talk about these really thorny issues about quote-unquote gun control, and we try to say that, we all agree. None of us would be in disagreement saying, that these things are tragic, and they shouldn't happen. They shouldn't happen. There should be, and I think there's going to come out of this some really good positive stuff, realistic stuff, that are going to hopefully really help to make schools safer places. But that being said, to be honest with you, to say that the enemy are guns and the NRA, that is something that is a farce. To blame millions of law-abiding citizens for the tragedy at Parkland is irresponsible and reprehensible. To say that guns themselves are, the evil that we must eradicate from our society is misguided thinking. It's just not realistic. You're blaming basically an inanimate object. If I had, let's say, and I don't, but if I had an AR-15 and I put it in a locked safe, and it could sit there for 20 years and it's not going to hurt anybody. And the reason why is because you have to have something more than a gun, bullets. The real thing that kills is intention. And before a gun can do anything, somebody has to decide that they're going to do something evil. And they have to intend to hurt and harm other people. And so they will use a gun, they'll use a bomb, they'll use poison, they'll use a car, they'll use planes, they'll use a van, they'll use anything they can to bring about mayhem and destruction. They'll even weaponize ideologies. And that's where I think that the kids certainly are wonderful. All of us, one of the things is I get older and I see, young people who are filled with life and they've got dreams and they are, productive, responsible young men and women, and they're growing into these beautiful people. It gives you hope. You say, wow, my years are shorter and shorter. It's sort of like the end of the toilet roll. I feel like that's where I'm at right now. Not a whole lot left to be pulled off that roll. Let me just tell you that. So, but you see the next generations coming up, and it gives you hope. And I hope that they will find real solutions to this. But unfortunately, I think they've been, a lot of them have been, they've been getting drunk on the anger and outrage cocktail. They've mixed up this wonderful cocktail of anger and resentment and politics, and they've been drinking it. They've been drinking the Kool-Aid, and they think that the evil boogeyman is Donald Trump, because he was standing there right there. He told this young shooter guy to go in there, this cruise. Donald Trump held his coat, as we all know, and pointed him. He said, "Go to that building over there and start shooting those kids." We all know that, okay, right? We know that. We know that members of the NRA were out there with chanting this kid on, go, 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 right? Well, of course that's not true. I'm being facetious, but that's what the narrative is that it's evil. And it's all Donald Trump's fault, and it's all the NRA's fault, and it's all guns' faults. Blame those three things. Get rid of those three things, and my golly, we're going to have utopia. Don't you know it? I even saw something interesting today about this whole idea of weaponizing the youth. This is interesting here. Youth give Pope peace of their mind. Whoa, call for transparency. Well, if you were thinking about, is this about the sex pedophile scandal? Sure, that would be, I think most people have called the Pope on this one, and as he should be, okay? But that's not what they're talking about. Here's what they're talking about. Young people have told the Vatican they want more transparent and authentic Catholic Church where women play a greater leadership role where obeying unreachable moral standards isn't the price of admission. What? Well, again, this is a political thing that is, again, they're weaponizing the youth to try and bring about some kind of a utopian change. And the one thing I'll say is, in defense of the faith, is that we don't follow rules, but we do follow Jesus Christ. And he has made it abundantly clear through his teachings and through the teachings of the church that a lot of these things that the people want to change are not changeable. They're immutable. And the reality is that we have to make a decision. Are we going to follow Christ, or are we going to follow our own selfishness? Are we going to embrace the cross of Jesus? He calls us to embrace our crosses each and every day. Or are we going to embrace our sinful lifestyles and try to justify that? So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I saw that this morning. So there are lots of interesting articles. Now here's one that you probably won't see a lot of, but here's a young guy. I haven't read it all the way through, but here's a young kid who is a pro-gun, probably an NRA person. And by the way, there was right after this young man Cruz shot up the kids, there was an early false rumor or false fake news thing that he was a member of the NRA. Turned out he never was. So they tried to paint him as an NRA supporter, an NRA representative, and again, totally false. But anyway, here's a young man. There's another young man too who felt that his side of the story wasn't being totally covered. So that's interesting. Let's see. That's another story for another time, maybe. Okay, here's another interesting thing. I tried to go online and ask, how many teens have been killed in recent years by AR-15s. And the thing that I found interesting, though, was when I went to another website that, if this will pop up, I don't know why it's taking so long, but it looks like teenagers are killed in greater numbers. A total of 2,820 teenagers ages 13 through 19 died in motor vehicle crashes in 2016. So I don't know how many kids died as a result of AR-15s in 2016, but I can guarantee you it was nowhere near 2,820. They kind of have this, again, another erroneous thing that all these kids are being killed every day by AR-15s. That's not exactly accurate. So I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that like to be fast and free with the statistics, and this young man here, David Hogg, again says NRA would be okay with children's blood on their faces in shock interview. Here's this foul-mouthed, angry young man, clearly angry and filled with rage, and actually he's a very hateful person. And I'm kind of intrigued by this kid, because it almost seems like he is being, if he hasn't been groomed, he is being groomed as a political mouthpiece, without a doubt. When kids normally go through something like this, like, think about it, I've done lots of funerals for young people who have died in car accidents, and sometimes, sadly, even gang-related violence. They're sad. They're grieving. They don't go from the moment this happens to, well, I guess they do now, to this angry political activist mentality. It's amazing to see that. And yes, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the 7 stages of death and dying, anger is a part of the grieving process. But I don't really see these kids grieving. I just see them being angry and mad, and also, if I can be very harsh, but I think I'm being realistic, they're kind of enjoying their celebrity, because they've been put in the spotlight now, and their lives have probably been changed forever. Now, not as tragic as the shooting was, I think their celebrity status that the media has bequeathed to them is probably going to do more harm to them, believe it or not, emotionally and psychologically in the years to come than the shooting, because they really haven't even processed the shooting. When you lose a loved one, it probably takes about a year, 1 to 3 years to grieve, to really go through this process. These kids didn't go through that. They threw a few shovelfuls of dirt on a couple of graves, and then they went out and they're just mad as hell. It's like we've got this, we kind of got this mentality from the 60s that we have to protest everything. And so now they've got this great supposed cause, and they're out to reform. Basically what it is, I think it's a, as some people call it, a gun grab, a gun confiscation thing. And they're trying to basically dismantle our amendments, the Second Amendment, and basically our Bill of Rights. Okay, freedom of speech. As long as you're not a conservative, you can say anything you want to. But the moment you begin to challenge people, like I'm challenging this narrative, a lot of people will say, "You can't say that. You're not supposed to say that. You have no right to say that. You're talking hate speech. You're talking." No, I'm voicing my opinion. And as of today, I still have the freedom to do that. May not be tomorrow, and YouTube might even take this video down. I don't know, because it's not going with the politically correct narrative that has been, quote unquote, approved by the mainstream media. So anyway, so we see all these angry people, angry people everywhere. So let's see, I was going to see something else. Okay, so the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, besides weaponizing the youth and recognizing that they're literally drinking the MSM punch and just getting drunk, absolutely drunk with anger, resentment, and outrage. And let me tell you, that will leave them with one hell of a hangover. Ooh, don't even want to think about that one. Because I've been there, I've done that. I have drank from that bowl of that bitterness of hatred, and let me tell you, it just poisons your whole life, poisons your soul, your mind. It's very destructive. But here's the other thing that I also wanted to kind of talk about too, is a lot of this stuff also stems to revolve around our dear President, Commander-in-Chief, the POTUS himself, Donald Trump. Now, again, I want to make it clear, I did not vote for Donald Trump, but for some reason, it's almost like, it's kind of like an addiction. People have this addiction to hate this man. I would say this, though, those of you who really hate Donald Trump, and there's a few of you who comment on my videos, oh, how can you support that guy, and blah, blah, blah. It's not that I support him, it's just that I don't hate him the way you do. Let me just say this, hate is not a good thing. It's a really destructive energy force in your life, and it consumes you one way or another. So I'm just trying to tell you, if you want to hate the guy, that's your business, but you're going to pay a price for that. And no, that's not a threat. That's just good old-fashioned holistic medicine talking, really, because people that talk about bitterness and resentments and hatred and anger, those emotions do have an effect, a real physical effect on your body. So again, it's interesting. People try to want to make Jesus this big social justice warrior, and Jesus did not get into politics. He avoided politics. He ran from politics. Now, he was aware of it. He addressed it when he needed to, but he did not march and didn't lead, crusades, or he didn't lead, protests against the Roman authorities. He just didn't do that. Because why? He was here to do something completely radically different. Christianity is, so many people think that Christianity needs to be so political. We are above politics. Because politics will end when this world ends, okay? So many people think that Christianity is about building a utopia. It's like, Christian communism. That's what a lot of people have kind of bought into. They've kind of got this, what's the word? It's modified, or genetically modified or theologically modified strain of Christianity, which is basically communism rewarmed, rehashed. They want to make the world the utopia, and that's never going to happen. You got to read the book, read the Bible, read even Jesus. This world is coming to an end, and so yeah. And during our journeys, we feed the poor, we clothe the naked, we visit those in prisons and in hospitals. Those are just compassionate things to do. But it's not part of a great political movement where we're going to, change the world. This world is going to have to be refashioned, remade anew. See, Jesus didn't come to establish a political dynasty. He came to establish the kingdom of God for all eternity. And there's a big difference. Okay? And that's why people miss. They got all drunk on the social justice Kool-Aid, and they think it's all about going out and being part of the Good Sam Club, and again, I'm not saying it's wrong to help people. Of course, again, we are called. Jesus Himself has called us to take care of these individuals. Practice real charity. And that's part of Christianity. But the real message of Christianity is eternal salvation through Christ. That's the real message. That's what Easter is all about. It's about Christ vanquishing sin and death, the things that make us sick and uneasy and bring us, destroy our lives, believe it or not, from within and without. He wants to transform us from being citizens of this world to being citizens of the heavenly kingdom. That's Christianity. So a lot of people want to just forget about the Jesus part, forget about the forgiveness of sins part. Let's just all get along and be nice and just embrace our sinful things and not judge anybody. It's like, well, that's not Christianity. Look at the churches that have compromised on the quote-unquote, as somebody says, the rules. Their attendance is way down. They've said, oh, it's okay to do all these other things, and people, they don't believe it. In their heart, they know that's not true. See, that's the thing. People know when you're being sold a bill of goods, a phony Christianity. And so when people try to say, well, God doesn't care, how you live your life, and you don't have to follow these rules anymore because they're just impractical and nobody can follow them. Well, you know what? That's true. Nobody can follow them without the grace of the Holy Spirit in their lives. Got to have that. If you have that, then, but again, you're not following rules, you're following Christ. Jesus has set up His church, and He's setting up His kingdom, and these are the principles that people who are in the kingdom of Christ are trying to live out. Does that mean they're perfect? No. I'm not perfect. But at the same time, I know that I strive to live according to what the Lord has said. I'm trying to follow Him, not the way of the world. Okay? So anyway, so people like to blame President Trump, and of course, we've got this man here, Mr. Mueller, and it's so interesting that after, 16 months now of Russian collusion stories, I've heard so many people say that Mr. Mueller is playing this chess game. And okay, what do you mean he's playing a chess game? I thought he was doing an investigation. There's a difference. Playing a chess game means you're trying to trap somebody. You're trying to beat somebody. An investigation should be kind of an objective thing. Is there a crime here or is there not? See, everybody has this a priori idea that there's a crime, we just got to find it. Donald Trump, we know he's guilty of sin, we just got to find the evidence. That's not objective. Again, that's why the news media is so drunk, again, on trying to, instead of report the news, all they're doing is editorializing. That's all they do. Again, look at this headline here. What Mueller can do if Donald Trump fires him. Okay. You look at these things, and there's always the question of if, maybe, possibly, could, would, might. That's all these stories have in common is, well, possibly this could be the end of Donald Trump. Or if Mueller plays his cards right, he's going to frame, he's going to find, this Russian collusion thing. It's out there. We just got to find it. And that's not objective. And that's all I have been wanting to say the last few weeks, is that you've got to have objective facts. You can't just be basing your probe or your investigation on bias and prejudice. You should have no prejudice. You should be wanting to be objective as anything. And if you find something, that's different. But after 16 months of trying to find, here's another one here. Here's another good one. These are the ways that Donald Trump's presidency could end. Could, again, possible, there's lots of ways. He could die of a heart attack tomorrow. He could be assassinated, next week, He could have a major stroke and be completely incapacitated. But again, there's this, this might happen. This could be, maybe, if. It's like all of this conjecture. Okay. And I think a lot of people, to include some of the people in the mainstream media, are kind of like saying, you know what? This is a dog that just won't hunt. So, again, I guess I lament the fact that it would be nice to have journalism that, instead of us always giving us an editorial piece, and there's a place for editorializing, okay? But if they would just stick to objective news reporting, I think in some ways what that would do would maybe kind of taking some of the edge off of all of the raw nerves and not making something this great big debate each and every time. You go onto YouTube, you go on the news, whether it's Facebook, Yahoo News, whatever it is, whatever your favorite news app is, and say, aha, see, they're going to get this guy. Whether they're going to try to use Stormy Daniels to take him out, they're going to try to find, if Bob Mueller's going to find some nefarious thing that supposedly he did, blah, 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 blah. It's just ridiculous. And it's just dividing our country. And I think what we have to do, and my idea is that we're going to have to let go of some of the resentments and anger and bitterness and prejudice that we have in these issues, and try to find some common ground. Because right now, all we're doing is the big clone wars, for you Star Wars fans out there. It's just this big, the Empire versus the rebels. It's just there's no détente. There's no coming to the table and trying to find common solutions. Instead, we're just attacking, always attacking, and it's very wearisome. And another thing that I think is even more concerning to me is we're playing all these political sideshows. It's like we're being kind of distracted. If we're not being distracted politically as a nation, which we are, we're certainly being we're being distracted in our own personal lives. I try not to. I didn't quite. Normally, what I do at Lent sometimes, because I used to be a big political news junkie, I started turning the radio off. And I know some people think that's kind of maybe irresponsible, but I tell you what, I think my blood pressure went down, and I started feeling a whole lot better. Now I can't say I did it this year because I didn't have that intention to give up journalism and news and political commentaries and things like that. I still watch things, but not maybe to the extent that I once did. But still, it's enough, though. I would say it's enough. I try not to do it in the morning, because if I start my day with getting angry or upset with all of the fake news and all of the prejudice that I see in the news reporting, it really makes me angry. Because I say, you know what? Why don't you just try and report actual objective facts instead of doing hit pieces because you don't like somebody? It's just like, this is so tiresome. It's just so tiresome. It's ridiculous. Talking about the size of Donald Trump's hands and how that has some connection with other parts of his anatomy. It's like, who cares? That has nothing to do with the national interest. Or he eats fast food, or he gets 2 helpings of ice cream or something. Or he plays golf or so. Who cares? Or he called Putin supposedly, and what a big outrage that was. And then you find out that Obama did exactly the same thing. You know, Trump issues a travel ban for these countries, and guess what? Obama did the same thing. So again, it's this double standard that I really have a problem with. Again, I'm not here to say, you know, you got to like Trump and you got to, you know, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying let's be objective for once and stop with the prejudice. Let's kind of try to be objective. Let's try to at least dialogue with people. You know, you come across people and all they want to do is they want to be right. They're prideful, they're self-righteous, and they're angry. And you can't really talk to those kinds of people, you know. And sometimes they manifest on some of my comment section, and you try to reach out and say, well, what about this idea? And oh no, they don't accept that. Whatever, boy, they just, you know, they're just angry. You know, they're irrational. They're filled with self-righteousness, and so you can't really deal with people like that because they won't listen. You know, I've seen some videos where some of these YouTubers will go to some of these protests, and they just try to ask the people questions, and they won't say anything. And they'll go up to their friends and say, "Don't talk to them. They're right wing or alt-right media. Well, get away from them." You know, they won't engage in talking because all they want to do is have this supposedly moral high ground that they're right and you're wrong. That doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't solve anything. But if people can start talking reasonably, rationally, objectively, then you've got a chance. But right now, all we've got are people that say, this is the way you have to believe, and if you don't, then we're not talking to you, and by the way, we're going to make sure you can't voice your opinions anymore. We're going to make it illegal. But I would say that it is interesting. I think that some people are starting to objectively challenge some of these status quo things. We have here right now in the California sanctuary states, and I think it's Los Alamitos, yeah. They say, sorry, we are not going to be a quote-unquote sanctuary city. We are going to opt out of that, which is interesting because it's kind of giving the goose for the gander, because, you know, California, the governor kind of say, you can't opt out because you're the state of California. You're a county in the state of California, our city. No, wait a minute. If you can opt out from the federal laws, which you really can't, California, Sacramento, you can't tell them, another city now that wants to not follow your dictates, that they have to. So it's kind of interesting, is an interesting scenario there. But there are a lot of people that are saying, no, this is not good for the country. Again, I've always, we welcome immigrants, but, I would say, come on, let's get these people to become naturalized citizens. Let's help them in that process, if they want to be. If they want to live in another country and they want to get a worker card, that's all fine and good. But if they really don't want to be citizens, then no, they shouldn't be given citizenship, carte blanche. No, but if they want to be citizens, we should be doing everything we can to truly help them. Okay, but I'm not saying that I'm against immigrants. I'm not. But right now, we are saying immigrants can break the law, and it's okay, and it's not okay. Again, we are a country, a nation based on law. And when we begin to discard the law and disregard the law, we are setting ourselves up for chaos and anarchy. And I know that there are even some anarchists out there who even comment on some of my videos, because they believe that that's the new political wave of the future, to get rid of all of these nation states and just become one big homogenous, global system. And I don't think that's not ever gonna work. But that's some people's opinion. Okay, I respect their opinion. I disagree with it. So anyway, these are the things that I've been kind of wanting to share with you all. I think I've said pretty much everything here. Yeah. So well, I don't know what your take is on all this. And again, we'll see what happens in the next few days, where our country's going. I would like to, I'd like to see a little bit more of a peaceful dialogue in regards to these more hot button issues. You know, again, people, you know, we live in America. Thanks be to God we do. And right now we can disagree as long as we do it respectfully. And I try to do that. I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes I let my blood pressure rise when I feel like people are being unreasonable, and they're attacking people, and they make ad hominem attacks, make it personal. And it's like, wait a minute, what does that accomplish, But unfortunately, there's just a lot of angry people, and I think that's the real issue that I see in all of this, whether it's the kids protesting the guns, or people, going out after President Trump, or people that are trying to, force ideologies on the rest of us that really are not in keeping with, the greater good. I think that when we close our ears, when we stuff our minds so full of anger and hate that we don't listen to people, that's when it starts to really break down, and that's when it gets dangerous. I think that's where I think we're seeing a lot of violence now, more and more violence. So I think that's the issue: is that how can we defend ourselves against it? And we can't rely on the beneficence of the government to make everything hunky-dory, make this a nice, pleasant utopia. That's never going to happen. In fact, turning this over to the government would not be a good thing. Let me just tell you that. So, look at all the mess they've done with Medicare, or medical things. The Health Care Act. That's what a mess that is. So unfortunately, the government, I always get nervous when they say, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. I get nervous. Okay, so I think I've vented my spleen this time. Again, maybe next time, maybe next week when I make another video, I'll be enjoying a bowl of pipe tobacco. Boy, I wonder what I'm going to smoke next. When I can light up my pipe after Easter. I don't know. Have to see. So there you go. So thanks for watching. Again, light up your world, light up your pipe. Try to be a light in the darkness instead of allowing darkness to inhabit or quench your light. Okay? But that's all I'm going to say for now. And let's see. We'll just go ahead and sign off for now. See ya.